Hey everyone, I am Josefa Iftikhar and I work in the compliance group of the govern stage as a backend engineer. Today I'm going to demonstrate the new feature that we've created in GitLab 15.6, which is setting a default compliance framework for the group. So let's start. I'll be using this issue reproduce group for demonstrating this particular feature. Uh, let's go to settings, general settings, and take a look at the already created compliance frameworks if the group has any. So we can see that this group has one compliance framework with the name of GDPR that's already created. I'll just go to the GraphQL dashboard and see and query the list of compliance frameworks in this group. We can see that we have one compliance framework with the name of GDPR, and the default value is set as false. So this is not the default framework of the group. So what this means is if I go back and try to create a new project inside this group, let's name it as project A and create this project. Since the GDPR compliance framework was not the default framework, it should not get automatically attached to the newly created project, which is the case. If we reload, we don't see any compliance framework associated with this project. Now let's go back to the documentation and see how we can create a framework and make it set it as the default framework. So I'll just use this example mutation. I'll copy this and I'll go back to the GraphQL Explorer. I'll paste this and I'll fix the name space path, which would be issue reproduce in my case. So what we're doing is we're creating a compliance framework with the name of SOX, and we're setting the default value as true for this particular framework. So I'll just run this and see what happens. So you can see that a new compliance framework has been created and the default value is set to true. If we go now, if we try to query the list of compliance frameworks for this namespace again, we should get two frameworks now. The first one was GDPR, the new is SOX. This has the default value set to true. So what this means is if I go back and try to create a new project, the newly created compliance framework should automatically get attached to the new project. So let's take a look at that. So we can see that this particular project has already associated with the newly created compliance framework. And on the other hand, if you go back to the first project, it's still the same and it doesn't have the compliance framework associated to it. So this means that the projects that have that were created prior to setting the default compliance framework are not affected at all by this. And the other thing is we cannot delete the default compliance framework. If you try to delete the default one, it'll fail with an error. So this is very useful for groups where they want to set a default compliance framework and want that framework to be associated with all the projects inside that group. Thanks for watching.